Hey, Scott Russell. I just wanted to unwrap a bit of my journey. Um, I think as things unfold over the next few years, we really need some answers. There's so much potential disaster to our lives that I think ultimately you can only talk about what you've earned the right to talk about. And to me, unconditional love was something that arrived in my life in a way I never expected. And I just wanted to give a quick overview of that. I was a minister for non-denominational for many years, travelled the world in that, ministered all over the world, took people all over the world with that, and I'm saying this because it's relevant to life. I always felt I had to do something for God. So, it's like, and I think it was basically coming out of a core of not knowing I was loved. It's almost like the love became conditional, and I think that's all the world really has is conditional love. We can say we love someone unconditionally, but if you can make that decision, then it's conditional because you've got control over it. And if you've got control over it, you can turn it off. But when there's a movement in your heart of unconditional love, it's something to me that was a bit of a journey. And I did so many things thinking that I was pleasing God, working for God as a minister. I produced a program, put it on Fox in Boston, Fox Network. I remember I went across the country in a motorhome in the US. Really, so many cool stories there. But I remember coming back to Boston, and I was asked to by a Brazilian church to do a meeting, and I was sharing in that meeting. An 11-year-old boy came out and asked for some prayer. He'd never heard. His mum had rubella when he was born, and he was deaf and mute. Well, I think he was deaf. He could, well, he didn't talk. He was deaf. But I remember praying for that young boy, and I'd prayed for a lot of people in the past for healing, and it was kind of hit and miss. But I'd been across the country, and I'd just seen amazing miracles of provision, the community of God that's there. It's all around us. We exist in it. It's just we never take the time because we're such control freaks. And so I would try so hard to do things, and I'd preach in churches of thousands or whatever, or minister, and then not, and then it was there was always something, TV, radio. Anyway, I prayed for this 11-year-old boy. His ears opened. He started to hear, and the place just broke open. But to me, when I prayed, it wasn't a fancy prayer. It was a depth of, just came from inside of me, this Jesus. And when I said the word Jesus, it wasn't a word to me. It was someone I'd met that had taken care of me when nobody knew that I was even in need, and fed my family when nobody knew we didn't have. And from that, we ended up doing 5 days a week radio in Boston, praying for people live on the radio, and just amazing miracles of God. Some people say they don't believe in that. Well, I really don't care what you believe. And then I saw it, and then I don't mean to be callous. I'm over trying to convince people of anything. So I then it opened up to all the Brazilian churches, and ministered in a lot of those churches, and it was never enough. Inside of me there was still something that wasn't connecting, even in the middle of seeing so much. And we ended up going to we'd see a lot of amazing things. Lived 2 months in the Ritz-Carlton, did just in Boston, amazing lives of provision, but inside of me it was never enough. I was always trying to, I think now looking back, connect in myself. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel I was worthy, and I had to do something and be lost in doing. And the things I did just never seemed to succeed like they could. You know, I'd go to rent premises on, Route 1 there in Boston, Saugus, and it was right as the place had been empty for years, and right as I went to rent it, it rented that day, and it was like, I remember saying, God, it's like I'm fighting you. If I'm supposed to be working for this God, why are things not succeeding? And I was running meetings at the time, and I closed the meetings overnight within a week. And I'm not real keen on fixing cars, but I ended up, I bought a 1971 Corvette that was a shell and just put it back together. And it took me, I don't know, 9 months maybe, of just methodically most days working on that thing. But as I was working, it was like I was done. I was done with life, with trying to do things. And we'd had a lot of other things I'd attempted to do, and in Boston I was looking at a building there, and long story short, read the book. But I was offered 1.5 million in free work, and it was like divine how it had happened. It was so amazing. And so I was like, oh God, you're in this. And then it just never eventuated, and discouragement would set in, and it's funny because God does things for us because he just delights in us. And we take it as a validation of what we're doing or who we are. And God is saying, what I do is not because I'm validating you, I'm actually invalidating you. And my love invalidates everything that you are. So I kind of had walked out of doing a lot of ministry. I still did a lot. I fed people and just off, just for out of the joy of it. Saw some amazing things there, but not my point of this video. We ended up in Portugal, and my son was asked to. My boys were pretty good at football, still are, soccer, and one of them had made the sporting academy, and he was playing for Sporting. And as I got over there, it just became a pretty wild time. The pressures of everything that happened there, and I was really again being supported by community, people that just were of one spirit with me. And things fell apart there in our marriage. My ex-wife just decided she wanted to move on, and I guess understandably, there was no direct action, no adulterous or alcohol or anything that caused that. It was just I think it was a drifting of hearts. And I think as a man, had I been more aware of unconditional love, that may not have happened, but it did, and here we are. So I hit the bottom through that. I remember leaving Portugal. I struggled to remember my name. I mean, the pressures of the emotional pressure, and in that time, in the blackness, I just got held by God. I didn't even know it was God. I got to this line, and I thought, if I go over that line, I'll never come back. I don't even know what's over there. It was so paralyzing with fear, and something held me when I got there, and it turned out it was just love, the unconditional love of God. And I'd been told, you're no good, I don't want you, you don't meet my needs, you're whatever. And I believed that. And when this love held me, I couldn't grasp it, because I'm like, why are you holding me? I don't have value. And it was in that time of that I realised I couldn't influence that love. Now I'd spent a lifetime teaching people about Jesus and his love, and here I was being held by this love that in a very disturbing way. Love is so powerful. It's frightening, but in a good way if we let it be. And what it did is it brought me face to face with the fact that, Scott, you don't love yourself. And I realised that I'm a Scott who's always going to make mistakes. I'm a Scott who's always going to be to somebody can do better or worse. And if somebody approaches me on that level, then I'm never going to be good enough. Never. I'll never have enough money. I'll never have enough fame. Fame. Who cares about that, right? But I'll never have enough of anything. If somebody's on that level, do you meet my needs? Well, if you're asking that question, no, I don't. And that was God with me. And I realized that all my ministry I'd done, traveled all over the world for and done, and seen amazing miracles, was all for nothing. It wasn't for nothing, but it was all meaningless in comparison to unconditional love. This changed my life. And I obviously the struggles of that. I mean, I'm definitely shortening it, but there was a lot of pain. I tell you what, the temptation to self-medicate was massive. But I've helped enough people to know that self-medication only ends in death. It sells our soul. And so I didn't rebound to a woman. I haven't had a woman since. I just walked the path. Not always easy, but I walked the path. And what I found again is the community that came of people. There was a couple of sorts of people. Some come and stand at the top of the hole and spit on you and just say, I always knew you were like that. Yeah. And then you've got these others that just come and sit next to you in a hole, and they really have nothing to say. They don't even want to say it. They just want to sit, and they sit there and they just look at you. Or they just sit there and they put their arm around you. And those people became my legs when I couldn't walk. They became my mouth when I couldn't speak, literally. And for me, not for the sake of drama, but just for the sake of some of you understanding, I had a period of time where it wasn't living day by day. It was living hour by hour, finding the motivation to see life and reclaim life with alone. I mean, I'd been married for 28 years and here I was alone. 6 of my children that didn't understand what was going on were gone. I'd lost everything overnight, but I'd gained everything. And I had a friend in the States that I'd actually helped through some of his stuff, and he said to me, Scott, you're going to look back on this and think this is the best time of your life once you get through it. And I did, and I am. And as I stood on my own feet, it became standing on the love, the unconditional love. And now I don't have the strength to just do things that are a good idea. I just don't have the strength. But when it comes out of God, when it comes out of that unconditional love, I have endless strength. Now when I join together with him, there are no limits. It's a limitless creation. And I've lived in that community that I believe we're all walking into with the mark of the beast that's coming and the things that are not good. And you can only talk about what you've earned the right to talk about. So, and that's true of, I think, a natural relationship now. I look at that and say, well, people can look, females, I'm a male. Of course, it'd be lovely to have crazy bird. Relationships, and I think that same relationship transfers of God transfers down to our natural relationships and to a woman, and that's it became, for me, a woman became something that I look at now and say, is the heart there? And firstly, the broken heart of saying, I've been to the bottom and I've realised I can't do this. I can put on a brave face and I can try to get through life and I can try to achieve and be what this world tells me I need to be, but it just ain't happening. And when somebody can get that honest, these birds, and somebody can get that honest, that's where we meet. And then to look and say, I'm really no good. Why would anybody want me? And people talk about self-sabotaging. Yeah, people do that. We all do that. But once unconditional love is there, it's irrelevant. You can self-sabotage. The love doesn't change. And so you can see somebody and just connect spiritually inside and say, I know that person. I know their spirit. I know where they are. I know their journey. And you know what? It's different. In the world, we look and say, well, I love someone when they're perfect. In God, he looks and says, I love you, even when you're not. I delight in you. Well, how can you delight in me? I'm not worthy. I delight in you. And I look now and see a life, and I think a woman as a work of art, that they're going to have their journeys, their ups, their downs, their rounds, their hurts, their pains, their friction, their everything. And it's all a beautiful work of art. And the unconditional love for me has not become a choice, it's become a movement in me. But what has drawn me to people, and I can think of somebody I sort of feel drawn to, and as that, we'll see. But it becomes, is there the ability to let go? And for me, I had to let go, and I couldn't let go. But eventually I got so tired, I couldn't not let go. I didn't have the strength to. And I think that merging of hearts, then anything's possible. And I've realised in this world, and everything is possible when you're with somebody of like spirit. And somebody that can say, love is the foundation. And God said to me, love is the foundation. And when it comes out of love, anything's possible. When somebody's with you and they're saying, you know what, you're not perfect, I'm not perfect, but I can see you actually love me. I'm a safe place, you're a safe place. Love can create anything. Love is limitless. And, you know, what does the world do? It tries to, again, bring it to control. It tries to make it sexual. Well, if I have sex with this person, then, we'll have something. No, because it's just an action, and actions fade. It becomes about heart. And all those other things, the sexual side, the provision, and all those things flow out of love. They don't create love. And that's a journey that's precious. And I'm excited about the prospects of love and where that could end up. Because as I'm seeing it spiritually, I believe that's going to flow into a spiritual relationship naturally with the right person. And I won't force that. It'll flow or it won't. And when it flows, there'll be obstacles and there'll be challenges, but love covers all. So I'll leave you with that, and I want to leave you with the thought that God has you, and no matter where you walk, let go and surrender to him. If you abandon, you can abide. But the longer we work to try to get love and be loved, it just shows that the state of our heart is saying, I don't think I've got value, and you've got a lot of value.